By 1964, the nudie cuties, this genre of comedic nudie films that Russ Meyer himself had invented, had pretty much run their course, which isn't too surprising since these films are incredibly stupid.
They were called nudie cuties, and they were the stupidest films on the face of the earth.
So, when he returned from Germany in 1964 after making Fanny Hill for a German producer, he decided to go in a different direction. It was time for Russ Meyer to make his first real movie. Welcome to Exploitation Reviews, and me, Rob, and today I'm taking a look at Lorna from 1964. This is the first of what is now called Russ's Gothic period, a series of 4 films made in 1964 and 1965, which are a bit darker and rougher than the light and colorful and silly nudie cuties and pseudo-documentaries that he had made before. Let's see how this dark period began. We open on a phantom ride shot going down a road. Since Russ never had much money, we can safely assume he just strapped a camera to the hood of a car. And you know, Russ never really used a lot of camera movement in his work, either before or after this movie, so this is kind of special for a Meyer film. The camera runs up to a preacher who talks about judgment and righteousness and then invites us to see what we think of the story. So let's do that. Let's see what we think of the story. We end up in a small town where we find these 2 degenerates. The leader, Luther, played by Hal Hooper, who we last saw on this channel as a different degenerate in Mudhoney, is disappointed he didn't find a lady. And then they find a lady, and she's a bit tipsy. But not nearly tipsy enough to be interested in Luther. But Luther ain't the asking type. His sidekick watches from outside. Pretty dark content for a 1960s film. In fact, with this film, Russ was sometimes credited with inventing the roughie, but that's not true, because about a year before this came out, David F. Friedman and Herschel Gordon Lewis put out the film Scum of the Earth, which explored the darker underside of glamour photography. That was the first roughie. Lorna is the first good roughie. Oh, a roughie, by the way, is a nudie picture that explores the darker side of sex. These are quite different from the nudie cuties that explored the lighter and comedic and more fun side of sex. Anyway, after the beating, we get this nice lead-in to the title card.
She wasn't very nice to you, was she, Luke?
So what? You know the broad I really want.
After the credits, we hop over to Lorna's house where we meet her husband. He's staying up late working on something, and after he finishes, he crawls into bed and puts on his game face.
Do you want to... Do you... I love you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, she seems way into it. And their session is so boring, even the camera isn't interested. The next day, hubby gets picked up to go to work. Oh, and hey, look who it is. It's the 2 degenerates we met at the beginning of the film. In another part of the movie, a man escapes from jail and kills a fisherman. Lorna goes out for a walk and for a skinny dip, and no, I can't show you any of that. It is quite a sight to see, but no, I can't show you that. Although, if you like, you could recreate the scene at home by submersing 2 watermelons in a bathtub. The escaped convict runs across Lorna. She looks a little afraid and a little excited, which is a little weird. He proceeds to... Well, this is a roughie, so I bet you can guess what he proceeds to do. And another weird thing is, Lorna is into it. She finally met a man with a little passion. And after, she even invites him back to her house and entertains the thought of leaving her husband for him. Pretty weird. Later in the movie, this infidelity will be revealed to all the characters that we have met so far, and it will be Lorna's husband who apologizes to her, and that is by far the weirdest thing of all. But the thing is, this is Russ Meyer's very strange take on a morality tale, and in Russ Meyer's world, the worst sin a man can commit is being trash in the sack. And if your woman steps out because you're trash in the sack and bad stuff happens, that bad stuff is on you. Russ Meyer's world is a weird place. Incidentally, in the real world, according to many of Russ Meyer's partners, he himself was trash in the sack, so make of that what you will. So Lorna shacked up with a murderous escaped convict, and she's got this sniveling weakling for a husband, and that husband's workmates are not exactly supportive, and that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. Well, like most Russ Meyer films, this one is full of some excellent photography. Great angles, great compositions. I won't say something cliche like every frame is a painting, but there are a lot of beautiful frames in this movie, and some of those frames don't even involve watermelons. The acting here is pretty solid for a low-budget feature. I love Lorna's husband. He is just the perfect, sniveling, spineless loser. It is instantly understandable why Lorna is unhappy. And Lorna, well, I mean, she's a Russ Meyer woman through and through. We all know what that means, and apparently she was pregnant at the time of filming this, which caused a certain amount of beneficial swelling. But beneficial swelling or not, this film is not perfect. Like a two-pump chump for a husband, it has some shortcomings. The writing in this film is pretty on the nose, and this leads it to being quite a bit too melodramatic for my tastes. I will say that, but I don't want to concentrate on the film's shortcomings too much, because I think it's best to see this film historically, both as a film that pushed sexuality on film further than had been done previously, and as Meyer branching out as a filmmaker and learning to make proper movies. This was Russ's first film with anything approaching a budget, about $37,000. That's still really low by Hollywood standards, but compared to what he had done before, not too bad. It was also his first time shooting 35mm film, his first time with proper acting and dialogue, and he took what he learned here and went on to make three of the most interesting American films of the 1960s, Mudhoney, Motorpsycho, Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill. Lorna might not be perfect, but it was a sea change. Author and exploitation filmmaker William Rossler said, Lorna was the first dramatic naked lady movie. With Lorna, Meyer established a formula that made him rich and famous. The formula of people filmed at top hate, top lust, top heavy. He's wrong about Lorna being the first dramatic naked lady movie, but he's right about this being the film in which Russ discovered his voice. Top lust, top hate, top heavy. And Lorna wasn't just important for Meyer, it was important for film in general. It pushed the boundaries of what we could see on film. One of Meyer's favorite film distributors even remarked, when you first looked at Lorna, you said, shit, we're going to jail. And Fred Beiersdorf wasn't far off. Between 1964 and 1968, Lorna was prosecuted for obscenity in at least 3 states. And Meyer simply refused to back down. Some exploitation producers, like David F. Friedman, often went for the greased palm approach. Buy the cops a new cruiser and they'd look the other way. But not Meyer. He fought them in court again and again and again. And that was good for all of us. About Meyer, David F. Friedman said, the majors should have kissed the independents' asses, because the independents are the ones that fought the battles. The majors never took any stand against censorship. Russ was one of the great fighters. Of course, when fighters like Meyer won in court, new precedents were set, and then the majors, of course, were happy to release films that took advantage of this new landscape that people like Meyer and Friedman had created. If you like a little sleaze in your movies, you owe Russ Meyer a thank you.